everybody, welcome to Money's No Object. I'm your host, Dylan Howell. This is episode number 280 of our YouTube channel and podcast, and I cannot be more excited to continue sharing with you guys personal finance topics that I think could be useful for you in your long-term financial journey. Today, we are going to talk about a very real distinction, and that distinction is between being rich and being wealthy. And you might have just heard me say the same word twice there. Okay, but by the time that this episode is over, I want you to be hearing two distinctly different things. Rich and wealthy are not the same, and I want you to know why, and I want you to know which one of these you should be focusing on becoming, right? And it's one that I do talk about all the time. I don't talk about the other one and becoming the other one all the time, so stick around for all that and more in today's episode. Before we get started, though, if you could go down below, hit the big red subscribe button, like this video, leave me any feedback in the comments down below, and I'll be sure to respond to anything you leave down there. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify podcasts, be sure to subscribe and leave me a review on either one of those platforms. Follow me on social media at MNO with Dylan, and that's really good supplemental materials to all the things I'm putting out in these long-form episodes on YouTube and the podcast every single day. And if you need somebody to help you build a financial plan and keep you accountable to that plan over the long term, then I can do that. Just DM me on any of the major social media sites and tell me that you are interested in financial coaching sessions, and you and I can begin working together, pushing towards your long-term financial goals, and then ultimately pushing you on towards long-term financial freedom, which is what I hope for every single individual who watches or listens to this show on a day-to-day basis. Now, if you were to go and you were to look up the words rich and the words wealthy in the dictionary, you are not likely to find things that are too different from one another. Okay, you just look them up online, and the first definition for rich is having a great deal of money or assets. Wealthy, right? Now, this is very interesting that they make it synonymous with wealthy when I'm trying to tell you that these are two different ideas, but bear with me, okay? Then you look up wealthy, having a great deal of money, resources, or assets. Rich. Okay, so they just call these words synonyms and move on with life. But when I'm thinking about being rich versus being wealthy, I'm thinking of two very distinct ideas. Okay, being rich to me is a very short-term idea. Okay, being rich is just having money and getting to some status point where I know that, okay, I can compare myself to these other families around me. I can, have these nice things, right? I have the money, right? I have the income to do this, that, or the other. But I think of wealth as this long-term strategy, as this long-term deal where you are constantly trying to grow. You're constantly trying to become better. It's something that's not as easily squandered as being rich. It's something that is more sustainable. It's something that is not going to be able to be taken away from you. See, I think of your riches as something that can be taken away when you die, but I think of your wealth as something that can live on longer than you can, okay? So when we talk about rich versus wealthy, let's talk about what it means to be rich. Okay, the way I see it, rich people, they spend a lot of money, whether they have it or not. Okay, because again, they are about status. They're about, having the things, having the rich symbols. Okay, think about it. What comes to mind when you hear the word rich? Someone wearing designer sunglasses, surrounded by piles of cash, a Hollywood mansion, very Floyd Mayweather-esque, right? Two people clinking champagne glasses on their private jet, having a closet full of Jordans, Louis Vuitton, Gucci, all these different things, right? That's what rich really seems to be to us. It seems to be all of these status symbols, all of these items that make you look rich. Okay, now this can also be fake rich. It's not always truly rich when individuals have these things, right? These individuals can be blowing money on a bunch of super expensive items so they can impress everyone around them. No one knows if you actually are rich, right? You could have bought every single credit. You could have borrowed your way into having all of these things. All that matters is that you look rich and powerful, right? People want to be friends with you. They want to date you. Life is good, right? It's no biggie that you're thousands of dollars in debt or more, okay? Wrong. Ultimately, being rich is not the goal. The goal is to be wealthy, okay? So what's it mean to be wealthy? Well, being wealthy is when you have your finances in order and are making wise money decisions, right? It's the real rich. It's the actually being what we're saying here. You're more about actually building wealth for the future than impressing other people. You don't blow your money just for the heck of it. You have a plan. You're focused on the long term instead of the short term. This doesn't mean that you don't have nice things, but you budget and save up to pay for them with cash, and you buy them because they bring you joy or enhance your life, not because you want to flex on your neighbors. Okay, I don't know about you, but I want to be that real rich. I want to be that wealthy. Okay, and I know this seems to be a razor thin distinction, but the distinction truly is, do you have the money or do you not? And the distinction even further is, are you basing your idea of having money on making a good income, or are you basing it on having a good financial plan and building something financially over a long period of time? Because that is what it means to be wealthy. Now, that's just one set of ideas when it comes to being rich versus being wealthy. But I thought I would share with you guys something from Robert Kiyosaki. If you don't know who Robert Kiyosaki is, he wrote the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Okay, and before we get into exactly what he says here, when he's talking about his rich dad was actually one of his friend's dad. Right. And his friend's dad was somebody who made really good financial decisions and was all about building things for the long term and wasn't, today oriented individual. He was wealthy. Okay. But his poor dad was one that was his actual dad. Okay. His actual dad made a lot of short-term poor financial decisions about money. And so he talks about being rich versus being wealthy as well. So he said, when I was a young boy, my rich dad told me about the difference between being rich and being wealthy. Many people think that being rich and being wealthy are the same thing, said rich dad. But there's a difference between the two. The rich have lots of money, but the wealthy don't worry about money. What Rich Dad meant was that while being rich might mean you have lots of money, you also might have a lot of expenses to keep you up at night, right? These expenses could be your mortgage, your car payment, your credit cards, private school tuitions, and more. In short, if you're rich, you're often trying to keep up with the rat race, right? You're constantly trying to, keep up with the Joneses, do as much as you can to keep all the status symbols that you have. Often if you're rich, you have a high-paying job to pay for the rat race, and you have to get up for work every day. You probably also have the fear of getting fired or getting laid off and what would happen if you didn't have your job or your salary anymore, because you're likely living paycheck to paycheck, which is often a scary proposition of somebody who is a rich individual. And this happens all the time, that you have rich people, right? People who make really, really good incomes and have all the nice things. These individuals lose their jobs, and you see what's behind the curtain. You see that everything was very, very fragile with their financial life, which is not what I want for you guys. Okay, this is why I find interesting what the people surveyed by Charles Schwab consider being rich, with the exception to the first two things that they say being rich meant to them, and I'll tell you what those are here in a moment. The rest are all about liabilities, right? They're all about things that are purchasing things to look good or to just have things. Okay, so being rich to somebody literally means having these certain things that other people don't have. But the first two things that people said being rich meant for them was spending time with their family, which I can appreciate that for sure, and then having time to myself, right? That's another one that you can appreciate. But then the others were like owning a home, eating out and having meals delivered, subscription services like movie, TV, and music streaming. Other things that make them feel rich were having certain tech gadgets or having personal trainers or using home cleaning services and so on and so forth. Again, all of these status symbols, not necessarily things that are saying that you have sustainable wealth over a long period of time. Okay, so if we want to stick to the idea of we want to build wealth, we want to become wealthy, because I do say on this show all the time, we want to build wealth. We want to be building wealth. But I don't ever say we want to be becoming rich. We want to be getting rich, right? Because, again, in my mind, there's this distinction. There's this distinction between these two words, and rich kind of sounds like this dirty, short-term word, okay? But wealth seems like this long-term, nice, shiny word that will actually be what you want from your money over a long period of time, okay? Now, this is no get-rich-quick scheme, okay? Being wealthy, becoming wealthy is not a get-rich-quick scheme. Okay, and I think that might be why I think about rich in that way, because it falls in that term, the get-rich-quick scheme, right? People want to make a lot of money really quick in order to, do whatever irresponsible things they want to do with money. But there's no magic trick or investment game that will make your bank account skyrocket overnight, unless you get lucky and win the lottery, or you write the next number one hit or something like that. Real wealth building takes a lot of time and patience, but it will pay off. Okay. There are several important things, though, that you need to know in order to become wealthy, and things that you need to do in your own life in order to prepare yourself to be wealthy over a long period of time. So the first thing that you have to do is shift your mindset. Okay. Far too many of us have this mindset of scarcity, right? We have this mindset of, hey, there's not enough money out there for me to be rich. There's not enough out there for me to have anything of substance. There's not enough out there for me to build wealth, Dylan, right? I can't do it. I'm not somebody who was born into a family to be able to do this. But you're wrong, okay? You can build wealth. You can be intentional and do the right things in order to build wealth over a long period of time, right? If you're going to be really intentional about building wealth, something has to change in your mind and maybe even your heart. You have to think about the legacy that you want to leave for future generations, not just what you want in the now. Okay, and that's the thing that a bunch of us fall into. We fall into this idea of, well, you only live once. And, if I have this money now, why don't I just spend it now? I don't want to spend my whole life saving and investing and all these different types of things. I want to enjoy what I have, right? And those are just lies of the world. Those are lies of individuals who have been going out and getting into debt year after year after year after year, right? Individuals just going deeper and deeper into debt and not actually having the money to back it up. They just want to be spenders. They want any excuse to spend money that they can have. They don't want to delay gratification into the future, which is actually a sign of maturity, okay? And when you shift from this mindset of I have to consume it all now to this mindset of, okay, I am willing to look to my future and take my future very seriously, then something changes, right? But you have to have a why behind all of this. You have to have some vision. You have to have some reason that you want to think in this particular way and act in this particular way. You have to have a reason that you want to build wealth, right? Because if you don't know, then you'll just end up like anybody else trying to chase the short-term dollar. Any major goal you're going to achieve in your life starts in your mind, and building wealth is no different, okay? If your goal is to build something substantial wealth-wise over a long period of time, you have to have your mind set in the way to actually do that, right? That's why a lot of people read books and a lot of people try to learn from people who have built wealth over a long period of time, because it helps you to shift your mindset. It helps you to learn from those who have actually done it and get your mind in the way that their mind works. And if you can, kind of work, and I think all the time about guys like Warren Buffett. If I can make my mind a little bit more like Warren Buffett's mind, then I can make my outcomes a little bit more like Warren Buffett's outcomes, right? I'm not saying I'm trying to become Warren Buffett. I'm just saying if you can get your mindset where it is long-term, where it is based on building wealth for specific reasons for you and your family over a long period of time, then it can be very, very attainable. It can be something that you can actually do in a way that you can actually help your family out financially over a long period of time. So you have to change your mind. You have to get in the right mindset. And then you have to get out of debt, okay? You cannot build wealth if you have negative dollars in your bank account, okay? You cannot build wealth if your net worth is negative, okay? The literal definition of your wealth or of your net worth, right, is the total number of assets that you have, meaning the things that you own, minus the total number of liabilities that you have or the things that you owe. Okay, so if your net worth is negative, that means that you owe more than you own, which is the exact opposite of having wealth, okay? We don't want this. You need to take care of your financial foundation by doing what I say in the financial action plan. What do I tell you to do? You have to be having a unique monthly budget done every single month in whatever form you have it, whether it's written or in an Excel spreadsheet or a budgeting app, whatever. You need to be doing this, and you need to be working on tracking your expenses, and then you need to work on throwing as much extra money as you can at getting out of all of your consumer debt that you have other than your home, and then you can get to your home later on after you get out of all other consumer debt and you build up your emergency fund and you start investing. Okay, so you need to do whatever you need to do in order to get out of debt, because getting out of debt is going to hold you back from reaching this idea of building long-term wealth. You need to do whatever it takes and be intense about crushing your debt, and you will be glad you did. And if you don't have any debt, you don't have any thing that's holding you back right now, and you want to continue moving forward, then by all means move forward to some of these other things that I'm talking about. But you have to understand, debt is a strain on your cash flow. And the longer you allow debt to be a strain on your cash flow, the longer you are allowing it to be a strain on your ability to invest in a very real way and save money in a very real way and do all the things that you wanted to do over a long period of time. Because the more that your cash flow is just being drained away on those debt payments, the less you're going to be able to spend, give, and invest, which are our three uses of money, which are our three ways that we can use money and be balanced in that way. Now, what does this require from us, though? If we're going to get out of debt and we're going to build wealth over a long period of time, something that this requires from us is that we live below our means. Okay, and you may have heard people say all the time, live below your means. But what in the world does that mean? That means, in the simplest form that I can tell you, that you make a certain amount of money, you need to make the difference between the amount of money that you make and the amount of money that you spend large enough so that you can save and invest your money over a long period of time. Okay, that's what living below your means means. Because some people think that, oh, if I make, $70,000 a year and I spend $69,500, I'm living below my means. Well, not really. Okay, because you only left yourself $500 worth of margin over the course of the year, and that's not going to be anything substantial for you to be able to save and invest and do anything to build wealth over a long period of time. Living below your means means having some substantial margin between what you make and what you spend. Right? So you need to live on less than you make. This goes hand in hand with having a budget, because the only way we're going to live on less than we make is if we plan to live on less than we make. We have to have a plan. We have to know what we are spending money on and where our money is coming from and how much money we're going to be bringing in every week or every 2 weeks or every month or whatever, right? Because if we don't know that, then it's going to be very, very difficult to actually live below your means, because you don't know what you make and you don't know what you're spending, which is problematic. Okay. An example of living below your means would be choosing to live in an apartment where the rent is 15% of your income, even if you could afford to live in one that's 25% of your income. It could mean buying generic brands at the grocery store when you could afford to buy a name brand, simply because the products themselves are pretty much the same. You don't have to be a total cheapskate, but it does make sense to save and cut back where you can. I've told my wife several times, and we've had these conversations where we could live in a nicer place. We could drive nicer cars. Okay, we could go out to eat more often. We could do all of these different things. We could spend more money at the grocery store. We could buy name brand things, name brand clothing, all these. We could do all that. Right? But what would be the collateral damage? What would be the problem with doing all that? Is that would leave less money in order to build wealth over a long period of time. Because in being young, every single dollar that you invest is far, far more valuable to you today than it will be later on, right? That dollar is worth so much more. I've given you guys the example recently. If you made 10% on your money over a 30-year period, every $1 that grows over that 30-year period becomes $20. There's a 20x multiple on every dollar that you invest over a 30-year time period if you're making 10%. Okay, so the more that we can live below our means, the more we can take advantage of those types of money multipliers over a long period of time. And that's what I want to be able to do. And that's what you should be wanting to do as well, right? Again, this isn't about being cheap, and it's not about not buying things that you want to buy, because by all means, we purchase some things that we want to, okay? But it means picking your spots. It means not having these recurring monthly expenses or weekly expenses that are just constantly eating up your income to the point where you don't have any left at the end of every month. Then another way that we're going to have to change and do something in order to build wealth over a long period of time, we are going to have to stop comparing. Okay, comparing what you have with others is one of the worst things that you can do for your budget. Plus, it can make you more likely to fall for certain money traps. It kills the mood all around. Be thankful for everything you do have and get off social media for a while. Okay, remember, we're trying to be the best version of ourselves, not the best version of someone else's life. And this could not be more true. Okay, because the world and everybody around you has these ideas of rich and wealthy. They have them convoluted. They are wrong. Okay, they do not understand that looking rich and having these nice cars or having this nice jewelry or having these nice clothes or whatever is not wealth, right? It is not actually having money to be able to do things. Okay, people think that if they can post on social media that, hey, they went and bought this, really nice house and whatever, this really nice car or this boat or whatever, that they're winning, that's the sign of financial freedom. That's the sign of being financially successful. And maybe you're one of these people who does this. And look, I'm not hating on you if you're going out and buying a car or buying a boat or buying a house or whatever. I'm not hating on those things. What I'm telling you is that you want to be buying these things, buying these assets, buying these, status symbols. Okay. I want you to own these things, but I just don't want these things to own you. And what I mean by that is that a lot of people who go out and purchase these things, they are purchasing them just basically on 100% debt, right? They are financing themselves up to their gills, buying the most that they absolutely can when it comes to house or car or whatever other type of asset, right? They're buying at the most that they can purchase, and it's not just what they can purchase, it's what they can finance, meaning that they are going deeper into debt, which is contradictory to what I was saying earlier. We need to be getting out of debt, okay? You cannot compare yourself with people who you don't know their financial situation, and that's our problem. A lot of times we'll look around and we'll go, well, they have this nice car, or they have this nice house, or they have this, or they have that, right? But you don't know what's going on behind the scenes. You don't know the type of financial pain that they may be in. You don't know the amount of debt that they may be in and the amount of money that they don't have at the end of every single month. Okay, or the amount of debt that they may be in that is just eating away at their ability to build wealth over the long term. Or you may have no idea that they don't have anything saved or invested for their future because they're constantly pushing it out in debt payments. Look, you have to understand that the more that you compare yourself to other people, the more you will become like those other people. Okay, you absolutely will become like those other people. And when you do become like those people, you'll realize that becoming like those people did not mean actually having. It meant being deeply in debt and, having to just constantly fight and claw at your financial situation to have anything worth having in the first place. Okay. So stop comparing and you'll stop making some bad financial decisions and you'll start being able to actually maximize your wealth building process over a long period of time. Okay. Then something that we must be doing, and this is quite clear, quite obvious, if we're going to be wealthy over a long period of time, you have to invest. Okay, you have to invest your money. Okay, it sounds like something that, only 40 and 50 and 60-year-olds should be doing. Okay, but if you're in your 20s, you need to be investing money. If you're in your 30s, you need to be investing money. As early as you can, you need to be investing money, period. Okay, because like I said, the earlier that you invest money, the higher the multiplier effect on that money is going to be over a long period of time. Okay, like anything that's related to retirement kind of feels like, you don't have to worry about it until way later. But the truth is, you should start investing as early as possible. Okay, once you're debt free and you have your emergency fund and all those things are set up and everything's good, then investing 15% plus of your monthly income can be huge. Okay, and taking advantage of your employer matches and your 401ks and taking advantage of Roth IRAs and doing all these things is going to help you to get good tax treatment of your money and get some free money if you're taking the employer match in your 401k or something like that, and just allow you to just stack and stack and stack and compound and compound and compound over a long period of time. Look, you need to start. You have to start investing. Look, I don't even say need. You have to. You have to start investing. You don't understand how vital it is. Your money becomes so much less valuable if you just wait. If you just wait, it's going to take so much more to get to where you want to get to over a long period of time. So in order for you to understand this a little better, for me to just nail this home, okay, if you are somebody who is, let's say, 25 years old, and you just want to retire by the time you're 65 years old, which you're like, dang, that's 40 years. Okay, if you made 10% on your money annually, which is, a reasonable rate of return to expect from something like the stock market over a long period of time, and you wanted to have $1 million when you retired at age 65, which, look, $1 million is not likely to be enough, but everybody's situation is different, and $1 million is much more than anybody else is going to have by that point anyway, okay? So let's just say you wanted to have $1 million by the time you turned age 65. Well, what would you have to put away each month? What would you have to invest each month? It's $158.13. That's not bad. Okay, so if you're 25 and you're going all the way to 65, that's not a bad value proposition. Start doing that. Okay, but then let's say you just waited 5 years. Okay, you waited 5 years and you said, okay, I am going to, instead of starting to invest at 25, I'm going to start investing at 30. And if I start investing at 30, then what will end up happening? Well, I will have to put in $263.39 per month over the course of my investing life in order to get to the exact same $1 million point. Now, over my investing life, that's going to be an extra approximately $35,000 I have to invest over the individual who was putting away $158 a month. But then let's say you wait until you're 35, okay? And you say, okay, from 35 to 65, a 30-year time horizon, okay? So if you do that, then you'll be sitting with $442.38 a month that you have to be putting away. You see how this is increasing on us, okay? And then if you look over the course of your entire investing life there, over that 30 years, right, that's $159,257.65 that you would have put away, okay, which is almost a whole $50,000 more than the individual at 35 years and is about $85,000 more than the individual who invested over a 40-year period. But then let's say you waited instead of till 35. Let's say you're 45 and you don't have anything invested for retirement. You have to put away $1,316.88 per month, making 10% for the next 20 years in order to get to $1 million, okay? And so that means that you have to have invested $316,051.95 over the course of your investing life, which is nearly double than the person who waited 10 years past the original mark that we started at, right? This person's waited 20 years, and they've had to invest about $250,000 more over their investing life than the person who started early. So starting early is so huge. You have to invest your money if you want to build wealth over a long period of time. You just have to. And then I am going to close this here today with, if you're going to be wealthy, you should also be generous. You should also be content. You should also have these good markers of being a good money manager. Okay? It's so fun to be generous. Okay? Giving your money away is fun. Okay? And giving your money away brings you a sense of joy. It brings you a sense of being happy that you actually built something, having some reason for building things, okay? That fake rich that we talked about earlier is, first of all, they're not likely to be generous. They're not likely to be content. They're buying all of these things that they need to be happy, and it's not really making them happy because they are not content with what they have. They're not content with living below their means, okay? You want to be able to be a blessing to other people. You don't want to be somebody who's stuck in the position of constantly having to fight and claw for every single penny that you have and, sending all your money out to creditors. You want to be able to be a blessing in somebody else's life. I think we all want to do that. We just don't know how, but I'm telling you how. If you can stay out of debt, if you can invest over a long period of time, if you can live below your means, and you actually have money to do some of these things, you have money to be generous, you have money to spend on things that you want to spend on, you can actually do these things and be very, very content, very, very joyful with your wealth building process and with the money that you do have. Look, you don't have to have money to be content. You don't have to have money to be happy. You don't have to have money in order to live some life that's worth living. You absolutely do not have to have money. But the more money that you have, the more generous you can be. Okay? And if you build wealth in the proper way, and you're not just trying to get rich quick, and you're not just focused on every dollar, and money is not your God, as long as that is the case, then you're going to be able to build wealth and be content and be joyful and be generous. Okay. And that's what I want for every single one of you. I want you to build wealth. I want you to become wealthy and actually have something to leave behind for your children and your children's children. And maybe what you leave behind is not just money, but is a legacy of being a good financial manager. It's maybe a legacy of just being a good person, of being a content person, of having these good habits of not just being a consumer on every single thing. Maybe you're teaching them how to delay gratification and be more mature in their lives as a whole. And that is a perfectly good gift to give to your children and your children's children. Okay. So I want wealthy for you. I don't necessarily just want this idea of rich. And you can use these words interchangeably as you would like, but being wealthy is the goal. Building wealth is the goal. And that's the way I'm going to keep talking about it here on this show. So keep tuning in and I'll keep showing you the way as to how to build wealth over a long period of time. So thanks for watching this video. If you could go down below, hit the big red subscribe button, like this video, leave me any feedback in the comments down below, and I'll be sure to respond to anything you leave down there. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify podcast, be sure to subscribe and leave me a review on either one of those platforms. Follow me on social media at MNO with Dylan, and that's really good supplemental materials to all the things I'm putting out in these long form episodes on YouTube and the podcast every single day. And then if you need somebody to help you to build a financial plan and keep you accountable to that plan over the long term, then I can do that. Just DM me on any of the major social media sites and tell me that you are interested in financial coaching sessions, and you and I can begin working together, pushing towards your long-term financial goals and ultimately pushing you on towards long-term financial freedom, which is what I hope for every single individual watching or listening to this show on a day-to-day basis. So tune in Monday as I continue talking about personal finance topics that I think could be useful for you in your long-term financial journey. So thanks for tuning into this episode of Money's No Object. I'm your host, Dylan Howell. God bless.